All right, it is boot battle time. It is GX2 Academy versus Vapor 16 Academy. Which one should you buy? Head to head, let's go. Let's start by talking about the uppers. Which one has the nicer upper? Now, they're both built in a really similar way. They're a mesh base with a liner, a little touch of padding, and then a top coating. They both have basically the same issue, whereby they're going to get a little bit of creasing in there, and they both have essentially the same touch on the ball in terms of it being a little bit distant and not particularly connected. Both are pretty soft as well. Overall, not too bad. The biggest difference is actually going to come in the texture, where on the GX2, you're pretty reliant on this what would you call that? This ribbing that is very reminiscent of what you're going to get on the upper level models, with a little bit of matte texturing from the upper underneath, whereas on the Vapor it's just a more intense matte texturing running all the way around the boot. This could definitely be considered a personal preference thing, but I do think that the Vapor is nicer. I think that the texture is a little bit nicer, and I also think the upper is a little bit softer. So while they are very similar, the touch on the ball is similar, we're going to give the win to the Vapor when it comes to the upper. While we are looking at the upper, let's talk about the lockdown, specifically this kind of mid-foot lockdown, what you're going to get from the laces, that kind of thing. And here there is absolutely no competition. You get better lockdown from the Vapor. The lacing system is just deeper. The boot as a whole is more adjustable. The shape of the boot is also a little bit better, and I think you can just pull everything in a little bit tighter. There is really no competition, especially when you have this shallower lacing system pushed off to the side. It just doesn't have the same amount of lockdown, or even the same opportunity to have the same amount of lockdown. So it has to be another win for the Vapor. We can't talk about lockdown really without talking about the heels, and again, this is an absolute walkover for me. There is no competition. The lockdown in the heel of the GT is just not as good. You still sit down in it quite nicely. It's still a fairly deep heel counter, which is really nice for a boot at this kind of €80 price point, but it's just a lot wider. It has a very slick synthetic leather material in the liner. Doesn't really hold onto your socks. You definitely get a little bit of heel slippage, and overall it's only an okay heel for a boot at this particular price point. On the Vapor, it is much more pinched. It holds onto your heel an awful lot better, and the material that they've used also helps hold onto your socks, and the padding, in my opinion, is also a little bit nicer. It's still a deep, comfortable heel that you sit down into, so it has all of those advantages of the GX, while also providing you with an awful lot better heel lockdown, which is definitely helped by the lacing system in the front of the boot, just pushing you into the heel a little bit better, and the overall shape of the boot helping it out as well. So it's another comfortable win in that area for the Vapor. Next up, let's talk about the outsoles. So I actually have these boots both with the AG outsole, which you will notice are basically identical. However, they're not actually identical. If you're to wear them back to back, you can notice a difference. So to start with, the stud pattern, really great for AG. The sole plate is actually pretty good. You've got a good amount of stability, and the lateral stability in both boots is okay, even if, again, better on the Vapor. But overall, this is a decent AG stud pattern, and you're not going to complain no matter which boot you get. However, the insole board on the GX2 just seems to have been designed a little bit nicer, in my opinion, and it just gives you a little bit of a more responsive feeling, a little bit more of a natural bend point in the boot when compared to the Vapor, which can feel a little bit off at times, a little bit too stiff in areas, and maybe with a transition that's not quite as nice. You see how that's just different, and it also doesn't give you quite as much responsiveness overall in the boot. So we're going to give the win there to the GX2. To cover off the looks and the weight here, I think looks-wise there is also absolutely no competition. I just think the Vapor looks like a nicer boot. I think the GX2 just looks cheaper in the way it's designed, the materials that are used. I just think that the Vapor is nicer looking. If we throw them on the scales as well, we've got 218 grams. This is in a US 8 with the Vapor, and we've got 218 grams in a US 8 in the GX2. So while I don't think weight is a big deal anyway, they are in fact exactly the same. Looks and weight don't really matter. It's a draw for both of them. Next up, we want to talk about sizing and fit, but first, if you'd like to pick up either of these boots, then do hit the links down in the top pinned comment or in the description, where you will be able to do so at great prices from authorized retailers and also help support the channel. If you would like to help support the channel, you can become a Boot Wizard member, get videos like this way before anybody else, as well as getting massive discounts on grip socks for a very small amount of money that's going to help continue to let me make videos like this for you. Again, links down below, please check them out. However, back to the sizing and the fit. In terms of sizing, if you just want to know which size to get, I've gone with my normal Nike size in both of these, the US 8. The fit is absolutely fine. I maybe have a little more room in the end of the boot than I would in the Elite or Pro variations due to the shape, but I'm absolutely not complaining. In terms of width, I would say the Vapor is probably the better option in the toe box area, whereas the GX may be better through the midfoot area, and both have a tightness around this bottom lace loop, bottom set of lace holes right here that I find pretty uncomfortable and reasonably difficult to break in. So that's your sizing, but what about the fit and comfort? Which one is the more comfortable boot? And again, for me, there is absolutely no competition here. The Vapor takes the win. It just has a better overall shape and it just fits more comfortably. Everything about the boot is just better in that regard. The GX is a little bit square. It doesn't conform to the shape of your foot quite as well. And it does really feel like you've got a little bit of a rectangle on your foot that doesn't really shape to your foot and doesn't really break in to make it mold to your foot either. So I just think overall shape on the Vapor is so much better that the comfort is also a lot better, and this has to be my pick over the GX in this round as well. So that's pretty much an absolute walkover. So if you want to know which one that I think you should buy, go and check out the Vapor 16 Academy. But realistically, what you probably want to be doing is looking for an old colorway or an old model Pro or Elite level boot at that €80 price point, because you're just going to get an awful lot more for your money. And for either of these, definitely look to pick them up on sale around that kind of €50 price point, because that's just an awful lot better value for money in my opinion. Thanks for watching, and if you want to check out my individual reviews of these, click these videos right here.